Okay, hello everybody. Hello, I think we're going to get started with your final session for today. Brilliant. Well, hello everyone. My name is Paul Hine, and I co-run an organisation called Made by Mortals. And we have on the online my fellow director Andy Smith, who's going to help host the online session today. And in the room, we've got Chris and Catherine here, who are part of the Made by Mortals team that are going to hand out your headphones, and you've got your blindfolds on your table already for a little bit later. So, Made by Mortals is a not-for-profit social enterprise based in Manchester, but working across the UK. We bring lived experience to life through immersive audio stories, music, theatre, film, and interactive workshops. We use participatory arts practice to create this work. Now, participatory arts is the process of people making and taking part in the creation of art, irrespective of ability and experience. Now, we understand that researchers and research teams can feel frustrated, and in some cases, even ashamed, that far too often research and the research process excludes people that are designed to help. We help researchers to make their research more inclusive, accessible, and beneficial to the people that matter to them. Now, in today's short workshop, we are going to talk to you about PAIR, our National Institute for Health and Care Research funded public partnership project, and share with you, through a bit of an audio-based magical mystery tour, if you like, the methodologies that underpin our work. In doing this, we hope to inspire you to innovate within your own PPIE planning and continue to strive for excellence when involving underrepresented communities, those communities experiencing health inequalities in your research. We also want to use this opportunity to gain valuable insight from you in order to strengthen our work in preparation for a full programme grant in autumn 2024. Now, co-production. As well as participatory arts practice, our methodologies do draw heavily on the principles of co-production, which I know has been mentioned already this afternoon. We support researchers to build a community of professional artists, health and social care practitioners and commissioners, and most importantly, diverse communities with the relevant lived experience knowledge around their research. We empower everyone in that community to participate in research projects from a place of equity, creativity, and strength. For our PAIR project, now this stands for Participatory Arts in Health and Social Care Research. Our artist teams will join forces with the co-production community across the Northwest, including researchers and research team members from the Social Care Society Manchester at the University of Manchester, Lancaster University Health and Research Division, the Applied Research Collaboration Northwest Coast, the Applied Research Collaboration Greater Manchester, the Clinical Research Network Northwest Coast, and the Clinical Research Network Greater Manchester. Our lead institute is the Pennine Care and NHS Foundation Trust, who will support us to make links with health and social care practitioners and commissioners and people with lived experience to take part in our project. Now, supported by the ARCs, we will also work with people with lived experience from a range of voluntary organisations across the Northwest, as well as Made by Mortals regular community groups we support and maintain for the long term. Our lead researcher on our project is Dr. Paul Clarkson, and I, as one of the directors of Made by Mortals, am a co-lead. Now, we're going to ask you a few questions, about 4, I guess, and we want to get your responses to those questions. So we're going to use slido.com. Now, you should be able to scan that QR code to access it, or you can go to slido.com and put in PAIR as the code. Now, if you're not a fan of using these things and you just want to discuss your points on the table, that is absolutely fine, or online for that matter. You could use the chat function, for example. My details will be up at the end, so you can email me if you prefer. I'm sure if you also want to grab us at the end for a conversation, that is also okay. Hopefully people are starting to get there with the slider. Do put your hands up. Chris and Catherine can help anybody out who needs a hand. Great. Okay. We shall move on. Now, through our engagement work so far with people aged 18 to 95 with lived experience including mental ill health, long-term health conditions, learning disability, autism and English not as their first language, we have discovered that PPIE can leave people feeling not really listened to, in some cases even re-traumatised by the experience of sharing their stories. It can make people feel like a problem to be fixed, or the language being used left people feeling stupid or inadequate in some way. Community leaders reported feeling left in the dark as they didn't know what had happened to the information that they had given, frustrated by the process, and in some cases pressured by researchers into giving answers they didn't really think or feel. So now we'd like to understand what researchers and people involved in research think and feel about PPIE. We're particularly interested in the thought of bad PPIE and whatever that means to you. So our first question for discussion is going to be, well, it's kind of two questions connected. What does bad PPIE look like? And how do you feel about the thought of bad PPIE being in your research project? So I want you, in a moment, I'm going to give you 4 minutes for this, and I want you to have a chat amongst the people around you. I also want you to use Slido in that time. And then we are going to take some responses from the room, and also Andy's going to facilitate some responses online, and then we'll move on. So your 4 minutes on these questions starts now. Off you go, please. Okay, your time is up, please. If we could pull the conversations back, that'd be fantastic. So we're going to take, I think, about 3 from the floor and then a couple online as well, if there's any thoughts on that. If you just pop your hands up, and Chris will come with the mic if you're in the room, and then Andy, I'll come to you if there's anybody online. So what does bad PPIE look like? How do you feel about the thought of bad PPIE being in your research project? Anybody, please? Yes, gentleman at the back.
Thank you. So we spoke, in my response, I spoke about bad PPIE being exploitative and sort of not giving very much back to the community. And in my personal view, I think that it doesn't make it bad if you can't do this, but ideally we should be trying to aim for PPIE from the very beginning. And by very beginning, I mean problem definition, because if you've already defined the problem, then by the very nature of doing that already, you then go to the community with quite a limited sort of like range of solutions and sort of research questions if you've already decided what the problem is. So I think, you know, bad PPIE would be if you've already decided what the issues is, or just what the issues are, or maybe what the solutions to those problems are, without consulting and engaging the community properly.
Yeah, so involving the community right from the start in terms of identifying those problems. Thank you. Anybody else in the room, please? Yeah.
Yeah, I think probably similar, but specifically when you start to consult or even, you know, collaborate with groups from the start, you know, that it's well-meaning, but then not following that through to have people involved at every stage of the process. So when it ends, sometimes ends when it's convenient for someone to go off and do their own thing and say that they've already got that co-production involved. So I think it needs to be keeping and maintaining that at every stage right through to the end. Yeah, so not just at the beginning of the process, for it to be right the way through the process. Absolutely. Someone down the front there? So in the back. We'll take one more.
I'm going to make a comment as a PPI. Within the ARC, we work really well with our researchers, and I think if there's any issues, it is brought up. We do discuss it, and we are really quite collaborative. So I think it's an unfair question, really, for the researchers to want to seen as criticising us PPIs, because as a PPI, I feel that we all work really well together.
Mm-hmm. So you had quite a positive experience.
I have a very positive experience.
That's excellent.
But from a researcher, you know, this is a specific question which I think maybe needed to be worded a bit differently.
Okay.
Rather than the word bad.
Okay. Okay. I mean,
I'm sticking up for all the researchers
It's up to
here.
your interpretation how you take that word, but I completely appreciate that feedback. Yes. Yep.
So just an example of something that doesn't work so well, and it's not something that I've necessarily experienced, but you know, it has happened in previous jobs where, you know, you try and do your PPI, but there's no actual plan as to what that's going to look like. So you get to the end of your project and everyone's like, oh God, we've got some budget, let's spend it on some PPIE. And there's no actual plan as to what that's going to look like throughout, and that's never a good thing.
Yes, I know that one very well, that sort of last minute budget, oh, let's do some PPIE, yeah? And there's somebody at the back there as well. Chris, go on. Do you want to go? Okay, yeah. I'm kind of breaking my own rules here, but okay.
Yeah,
Two more then.
Yeah, it's just a response to that. I think you're right, a plan, but there's also about overly prescriptive. Yeah. So you get sort of straight-jacketed then, because there's never enough flex in an infrastructure around public and patient involvement to do things differently when you through your co-production or whatever, recognise that some things might need to change. So having the ability to flex within a programme of research, I think, is something that we need to be thinking about.
Okay. Yeah, gentleman at the back.
It's all right, get me steps in, don't worry.
Thank you. So I'll come from a researcher's perspective. So for me, what bad PPI looks at, it doesn't answer the question, is what you're doing needs led? So whenever I look at a project, I'm always looking for that need that's leading it. So I am going to do something clinical to you, but what difference is that going to make to the patient or the public or whatever it is? So the needs-led bit is the reason why I'm doing the research. I'm going to change your life because I'm going to help you, whatever it may be. My bit about bad PPI is it is that bit where the voice of that need is not in what you're doing. So you're always looking for that voice. So I always give this example. Telehealth is going into old people's homes. Old people are sitting at home. They're being measured clinically for all these problems. And then you go, yeah, but my grandmother's not going to the shops anymore because she's sitting by the machine waiting to be tested. That's not needs-led. That's clinically led. What needs-led is make the device mobile. So that voice is only possible if you have good PPIE to get that need. You know, this is the need that's driving your research project. If you don't have it, what's the point? You can't operationalize it at the end. I think that's my bit.
So having that need driving the project, voice in that.
Well, it has to be, because at some point you're going to tell people to do this or use this. You know, fine, I can solve your clinical problem, I can give you a tablet, but actually what difference does that tablet make to your life?
Absolutely,
it's more important, isn't it?
Brilliant, thank you. And Andy, anything online at all?
Yeah, good. Hi everyone. Yeah, we had a lot of the same comments online as well in the Zoom chat about PPIE right from the start, and then Catherine also made a point about it being well resourced from the beginning. Catherine, are you okay to unmute and expand on that point that you mentioned, please?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I was just saying that it's very difficult to do good PPI before a project is funded, which is when you need the good PPI. So there's a bit of a barrier there in the terms of the resources available to researchers.
Excellent, thank you very much. Thanks for sharing those things with us. We really appreciate that. Okay, so in a moment we're going to listen to some audio, and then we will take some responses afterwards. Thumbs up when it starts playing for me, please.
Hello, my name is Andy.
And I'm Paul.
We're the directors of Made by Mortals, and we're going to talk you through some of the methodologies that underpin our work and share some audio excerpts.
Made by Mortals bring lived experience to life through immersive audio stories, music, theatre, film and interactive workshops. We use participatory arts practice to create this work.
Participatory arts is the process of people making and taking part in the creation of art irrespective of ability or experience.
The first thing I'd like to talk about is the use of fictional characters in our work. All the work we create contains fictional characters co-created by people with lived experience. So the characters we create become a combination of communities' lived experience alongside their imaginations.
Joanna has blue-green eyes.
She has reddish hair. She's pale. She's pretty.
She likes to wear colourful clothes when she can.
Joanna has psychosis.
She experiences psychotic thoughts.
Voices. Sounds.
Hallucinations.
Delusions.
Cognitive impairment. A doctor's words, not hers.
Jasper is 21 years old.
Jasper has autism.
Ori has a learning disability.
We will let you decide.
Either way, Jasper has an amazing imagination.
Especially when he's listening to music.
He uses it to escape from things he finds difficult.
And sometimes he uses it to imagine different versions of events.
Versions that will be better for him and people like him.
Adam lives in a small family terrace in Greater Manchester with his mum, his sister and his grandparents. The home is busy, noisy, full of people. He hears everything: doors slamming, shouting, drilling from next door, a road outside, snatches of nature.
Using fictional characters gives the communities we work with a collective sense of ownership over one story. It protects individuals when sharing their lived experience, as they are able to share it through the vein of the character. It gives people permission to imagine different futures and scenarios for the character, and it gives people a feeling of safety, and this in turn helps them to share their own insights from a place of strength. Here's some of the people we work with explaining why using fictional characters is important to them.
It allows people their own safety. If it was a character we put forth, we could all play with it.
I feel as though I can relate to that character. I feel as though a lot of people can relate to that character.
The effects of this are that we can carry on contributing, we can carry on identifying with this character and make it as real and as substantial as possible.
Like if something happened to the character, that can be the character's experience of like using a real life story.
It's important because it's something we've all experienced, or we might have experienced, and we're getting to share that and put it all into one character. I got it out there instead of bottling it up. It felt like a relief.
We also make our audio stories immersive and participatory for the listener. This allows the listener to take a walk in the shoes of our fictional character and feel what it's like to be them.
Listen, love, during this immersive audio experience, you're going to play the part of my wife, Ruby.
You're going to play the part so you can understand what it's like
To be her.
You have lovely dark auburn hair and green eyes.
Bit of a study in your youth.
Medium build?
You get your hair done regular.
Nails too, and manicure, the lot.
It's important to you to look nice.
It's the only social you get these days. When we were younger,
As childhood sweethearts.
And when we first got married, like...
We was always dancing.
And you was always singing.
But there's plenty of life left behind your eyes.
Don't worry about playing my wife in this immersive audio experience, by the way. There's no love left.
You're living with dementia.
We're living with dementia, you see.
Listener, it is Wednesday afternoon. You have arrived at the Chai and Chat group.
You have long, dark hair.
Big brown eyes.
You wear a bright blue scarf that your sister brought for you. The colour makes you happy.
A woman in her late 40s greets you with a large smile.
Welcome. Come in. We're making tea.
Her head tilts.
What would you like to drink?
Listener, help yourself to a hot drink.
Find a seat to make yourself comfortable.
Take a deep breath.
Kerry has a mirror in the kitchen.
Listener,
I invite you to go to a mirror in your home. Look at yourself. Describe what you see.
Smiley eyes that water when they're happy and when they're sad.
Lived in, knackered. I stopped wearing makeup and people think there's something wrong with me.
I look serious all the time. Round, blue eyes, a slightly crooked nose, old scars from multiple piercings on my eyebrows, lips and nose.
Kerry sees a fractured eye socket. Blue, black, red, swollen.
You open Adam's bedside drawer and remove his pill box. Adam has dutifully filled his medication box for you.
Say, it's for my benefit. Say, مشان مصلحتي.
Say, it's so I can feel better.
مشان أحسن أتحسن.
Gamba, njagala kulira bulungi. Think, I don't deserve to feel better. Choose the correct day of the week and tease out his pills. You know you should take them with food, but Adam has no appetite.
You try to move Adam's body to the kitchen. A piece of toast, half a biscuit even.
It's no use. You swallowed them dry. At least you have done this. This much you have done for Adam.
By making the work participatory for the listener, it allows them to be directly involved in the action. It deepens their connection to the stories they are listening to and forces them to be an active participant in the story. That, in turn, prepares them to take action and commit to change.
We get the audience to join in, so they're able to feel it and understand it, of what's going on, and empathise.
They can almost put themselves in the same place as where the character is. Some people might be able to relate to it. It's important that people understand.
Part of them is part of that character.
Because they can relate to him, things they do themselves, and the character does the same things, then there's a connection there.
You're being aware of everything around you, your surroundings, and you're being mindful of everything around you.
And then it can highlight their own experience, like help them to better understand their experience and help like other people.
Part of our methodology is to ensure that the participatory arts process is beneficial for the communities who take part, so they can contribute from a place of strength and equity. Take a listen to these clips from a group of women who co-produced Eggshells with us, a short film exploring domestic abuse and coercive control in older adults.
It was almost a bit like therapy, talking to other people who unfortunately had been in the same boat as me, had similar experiences.
Talking to the other people who have lived through it, it just makes it, well, it made it easier for me.
It was reassuring to speak with them and realise that, no, it isn't me, it wasn't my fault. These men, and I'm sure women as well, behave in this way, and we all seem to have similar experiences in how we'd been treated as well, so I found that quite reassuring.
It was brilliant, just walking out that door that day. I'd done it. A big weight had been lifted and thought, well, I hope it helps somebody.
Sort of validated, and that my opinions were worthwhile, well, my experiences as well.
So not only do you create something for the wider audience, the wider public, you're actually creating a positive impact and change within the women who are involved themselves.
Knowing that this could potentially help other people as well. That's why I wanted to participate.
And for the health and social care practitioners on the ground, making the work participatory and immersive can lead to significant impacts on their practice too. Here's some clips from people who work in health and social care discussing this. They were involved in one of our recent projects around domestic abuse.
It was a totally different training and experience to anything that I've had before. I was really able to listen. There's nothing else to focus on but to really listen to the story.
Value in that the immersive element of it is huge. It has a massive impact. We do training all the time.
Yeah.
But to sit, have that time to sit and listen and not move and have no distractions and listen to someone's lived experience without thinking, right, I'll just take these notes, because our customers have this lived experience. They speak to us about it, but you have a different agenda. Right, what am I doing now? Which referrals are we making? Tick, tick, tick. This gave the opportunity just to listen and nothing else.
I'll sit and have conversations with them and lead the typing, or if I have got to do some typing, like yesterday on a visit, I literally put a couple of bullet points and I'll complete the rest back in the office.
This grounds you, again, doesn't it? This type of training, it brings you right back down and reminds you what it's all about, actually, that person at the centre of it.
Yeah. And the music that goes alongside it.
That music at the end of this one, it was really moved me.
Really beautiful.
Massively.
We'll go on to talk about the use of music in our work in just a moment. Throughout all the work we create, audio stories, films, live shows, we meet our characters at a point of crisis or transition.
The cupboards are bare.
The cupboards are born bare.
Where's the beans?
You're my mum, and I love you just as much as I always have. But I'm not your daughter. Maybe I never have been. But I'm still your child, though. I'm still here. And I love you.
You look into the wardrobe mirror. For a brief moment, you catch a sight of Adam's skin. Face calm, mind screaming.
What's going to happen with the doctor? What if they examine you?
Oh, he gave you with a needle.
What if you have to have one of those scans where it's dark and you have to lie still?
You didn't like that, you felt hot and dizzy. Trapped.
What if they use medical words you can't understand?
What if they ask if you understand and you say yes?
But really, you don't.
What if you panic and can't speak?
What if they don't understand why you come to see them?
What if they don't see that you have a disability?
Your thoughts are racing.
Now you're panicking about panicking.
You need to get rid of your negative thoughts.
Your head hurts. You're shaking.
You wanted to leave. You want to speak to your sister.
Why couldn't she have brought the little one and come with you? Are you a support worker?
Oh, Lavender, maybe it would have been different this time.
इसके तो हाथ टूटे हुए हैं कोई चीज इससे सही नहीं आती हर चीज ये खराब कर देती है ये भी इसने पकड़ के तोड़ दिया इतना महंगा मैं लेके आई थी
Everything is broken.
You're broken.
The world around you is broken.
Your mother-in-law says everything you do is wrong. कोई काम सही भी है तुम्हारा?
सारे काम गलत कर दिए हर चीज गलत है हर चीज गलत तुम हो ही गलत
कोई काम तेरे को सही नहीं होता. She locks you in your bedroom.
You have no food.
No one. She picks up the suitcase.
Who is that?
The neighbour.
School? Police?
Social services?
She knows she has to leave. Is this it? What about the kids? There's no way back. What will she do?
You're not going anywhere. You're staying here. You're staying here. You're staying here.
As part of our methodology, we also use the characters and stories as a catalyst for other stakeholders to provide valuable insight around the health and care themes they explore. We record these as additional audio insights. Made by Mortals have created a catalogue of stories and audio insights around a broad range of health and care topics. The additional audio we're going to share with you now as an example is from health and care practitioners, carers and people with lived experience discussing what a good experience would be like for Ruby and Dennis, a fictional couple living with dementia.
She's happy, if you like. She knows she's got a memory problem, but she's happy.
And just knowing that they've got the safety of people around them that understand where they're at and they're trained to try and support them through that process.
If there's lots of people talking at the same time or there's lots of things going on, I think people with dementia really struggle with that.
Usually people with dementia, they don't like noise and different lights, and if you put a black line in front of them, they'll think they're going to fall down a chasm.
Because our hotel bedroom had a sort of a grey carpet with a white zigzag pattern, and I could see occasionally, Fred would be hesitant because he couldn't quite make out, if the floor was solid because of all these, what could look like cracks in it.
So she needs dementia-friendly swims. She needs quiet cafes. She needs relaxed cinema performances.
I'm not into apps. No, chat. No, I've got enough to do.
I can't work mine. The pad that I've got now.
I can do bits on the internet and, do a little bit of banking, but that's it, I know my limitations, and that is beyond me, but there's certain things, that I find completely, and I'm too old now to start trying to learn, it's, I don't want to learn it, to be honest with you, I've got enough to do now, with Jean, and it takes up most of my time.
There's a big move towards the convenience of online, the convenience of payments, everything else, all going cashless, digitalised, but that doesn't work for everybody, and say for a number of reasons. Dementia is one of which.
The work we create is presented through interactive workshops. The workshops are designed to facilitate discussion around health and care themes amongst participants and lead them to commit to change in their practice, policy or strategy. Finally, we want to leave you with an understanding of how and why we use music. Music is always a feature of Made by Mortals work. It allows the listener to connect with the character and the subject matter on an emotional level.
This extract is taken from Sadiqa's story, an audio story about domestic abuse made in co-production with a group of women of South Asian heritage. In the episode, the protagonist, Sadiqa, attends a chai and chat group. The lived experience group we work with imagined how Sadiqa might say, "Can I share my story?" Using the natural rhythm and intonation of the women's voices, we were able to transport this onto the violin. Listen again to the opening. Can you hear Sadiqa through the violin asking, "Can I share my story?"
For the participant, when co-producing the music in this way, it allows them to express their lived experience in a different art form, putting a part of themselves into the character and story through music and sounds. So, for example, when making the music for our short film Eggshells, the lived experience group discussed loss of identity for the survivor. So we composed a short tune using notes that were made up of the initials of the group members' names, stamping their identities on this piece through the music and therefore increasing their level of ownership.
In this next example, we've used music to simulate a healthcare condition, in this case, dementia. The lived experience group we work with described having dementia as the power being cut off momentarily. We applied this idea to the music so that it momentarily cut out whenever Ruby was having a dementia-related problem in the story. Here's one final piece, representing a character called Richard. He has a heart condition, he lives alone and has been a victim of mate crime. Richard also used to be a drummer in a band. Listen carefully and you'll be able to hear Richard tapping various rhythms with his fingers as he sits on his armchair. This was an idea from our lived experience group, who asked the cellist to tap various rhythms on the back of the cello. At the beginning of the piece, you'll also hear the cello playing two notes. The group imagined how Richard, a man in his 70s with respiratory difficulties, breathes. This is represented by the timing of these two notes, the cello mirroring the inhale and exhale of the breath through the timing of the two notes. Every time you hear these in the piece, imagine Richard breathing. The group also imagined how Richard walks around his house. They felt Richard moves in an ambling, stumbling sort of way, perhaps with a limp. This meant that the footsteps would be an irregular pattern as opposed to a march that has a strict left, right, regular pattern of steps. The group clapped the rhythm for how they felt Richard's ambling footsteps would sound like. This was then played on the cello using a technique called pizzicato, which is a plucking of the string.
When this final extract is over, this audio guide of Made by Mortals methodology will be complete. Thanks for listening. Excellent, thank you. So just going to spend a couple of moments kind of unpacking that experience a little bit in terms of how that made you feel and why. So if you could just have a short conversation to the people around you or online in the best way possible, just have to think about how that made you feel and why. And we sort of asked that just to allow people to unpack it, particularly if they had any difficult or stirring emotions during listening to any of those particular stories. So we're going to just give you a couple of minutes to do that. We won't take feedback from the floor on that, just an experience to do that. So 2 to 3 minutes, just have a conversation with the people around you, how it made you feel and why. Your time starts now. Go. Okay, if you could just draw your conversations to a close for me, please. So there's some flyers on your table, and there's a bit more information about Made by Mortals and also the pair project we're involved in. If you want to listen to some more audio or watch some of our films, etc., you can just go to our website. It's all free to watch there. It's just madebymortals.org, or just search Made by Mortals, and I'm sure you'll be able to find it. There's a lot of stuff on what's called our hidden page, which is a program of work that we do, and you should be able to find a lot of our work on there to experience it in your own time. We're going to ask a few more questions, although time is ticking, and again, this is to help strengthen our bid for a full programme grant, so it helps to understand things, particularly from a researcher's and research team's point of view. So again, please use Slido if you can, and we're going to have a little discussion in the room. So what are the internal and external problems these methods are solving for researchers, indeed if you believe they solve any, and or could solve, I guess is the other way of phrasing it. So we're going to have a conversation again. We'll probably make it 3 minutes now because of time. But what are the internal and external problems these methods are solving for researchers? 2 or 3 minutes. Please use Slido. We'll take a couple of comments from the floor. Your time starts now. Off you go. Okay, so I'd like you to pull your conversations to a close for me, please. So is any feedback from the floor, and then maybe we take, say, 2 from the floor and then a couple online if there's any, and then we'll do one final question before we wrap up. So what are the internal and external problems these methods are solving for researchers. Have we got any comments on the floor, please? Got one down here, I think. Yep.
Does this work? Okay. Well, we thought sometimes if people, perhaps because of a disability or because of trauma, have trouble expressing their own experience, then this is kind of personal, but also not personal. It's only as personal as they want it to be. So I think it might be a way of capturing things that people have like difficulty expressing, and also if people would find it very stressful and traumatizing to express it as well, helping to capture that. And we also thought, well, there's actually a product that we could share with other researchers in the area, or that is almost like a finding in itself, what it's like to have that condition. So we've actually got sort of a research product before we've even started doing this kind of thing, which might be useful.
Absolutely, thank you very much. Yeah, we've definitely found that allows people to offer insight in a way that protects them from the experience, and hopefully that's useful to researchers. And also very much our work has been used as dissemination tools. So quite often the research informs the piece alongside the lived experience and people's practice, health and care practitioners and commissioners on the ground as well. So it's we find it's been a useful tool to help disseminate research and involve people with lived experience and their voices, their authentic experiences in that process. You know, the public's involvement isn't tokenistic, it is through the whole project. And that's been really useful, I think, to a lot of researchers we've worked with so far.
Have you been able to use this as part of the part of your dissemination of the findings of research as well as the initial involvement?
Absolutely, yeah. So we've been able to take research findings that we've worked, the teams of researchers we've worked with so far, and we've been able to work with lived experience groups in order to develop stories that share those findings in an interactive, interesting, creative way. And we've also been able to sort of gain insights, the kind of audio insights that you experience, that kind of put some flesh on the bones of the findings, if you know what I mean, and then repackage it in a way where practitioners and health and care practitioners and commissioners can hear that and experience that and consider and reflect on what changes they could make in response to it. So it's a very active piece of work, if you like, that helps to bring lived experience to life, but also helps to bring research to life, I guess, is part of that. That was quite a detailed one. So we're going to go online now, I think, in order to keep to time. Andy, have we got anything from online, please?
Great. Yeah. So we've had comments about the problems of authenticity and so the methodology solving those problems. Kosa mentioned about inclusivity and that it enables a range of people to participate. And then there's another comment that we've had from Selena, which basically echoes what was just said in the room there about creating together rather than having to tell your own story again, especially if that's traumatic for somebody.
Excellent, thank you very much. So I'm going to make this the final question because of time today. And I think this is quite an important one for us in our next part of our development. What are the barriers to these kinds of methods being adopted? So the kind of methods that we're talking about today and you've experienced firsthand, how can we, or what might be the barriers to research teams adopting them more widely? What kind of barriers can you see getting in the way of that happening? So again, please use Slido if you can and have that conversation. 3 minutes, please, and this will be our last one, and then we'll wrap up. So your 3 minutes starts now. Off you go. Thank you. Okay, so if you can draw your conversations to a close for me, please. Again, we're going to take a couple from the floor, and then we'll go to online for this question. So what are the barriers to these kinds of methods being adopted, do we feel?
So I think the problem obviously is money, but the bit is about if you're going to use this to disseminate your ideas, what's the difference between doing this and doing you know what I mean? You've got to have that bit of evidence that it makes a big difference. The dilemma is you're going to get the funders who will fund this research and go, I mean, I don't know what the cost is, But the cost for me to do a little poster and the cost to do your production is going to be vastly different. Which ones can I convince the funder to pay for? It's the same, I think, we have with public involvement in the first instance, and was raised by Catherine, is that to do good public involvement, we need to do it before we get the funding. So where does that money come from in the first instance? So these are all sort of, you're always going to have a money issue. So the value is the value for money is the question, but only going to get that by showing what you get from it. In other words, I can see the production value, but I'm just trying to think of what difference that's going to make to get my message out there and being used.
Yeah, absolutely. So going forwards, we need to be looking at how we evidence the impact of the work, and particularly if it's going to be used as a dissemination tool, does it work, and does it work better than a poster, and if so, how and why, and where's that value for money coming from? I feel like that should be a real central part of our full project programme grant going forwards. I think that's really important. Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah.
I've shared this anonymously, but I thought I'll own it. Look around the room, half of people have gone, and as a fellow creative, I share that frustration that people don't take it seriously, even though it's proven. You have to work 10 times as hard to prove how effective it is, time after time after time. You have to prove its value. You know, you can go to, my work is in creating simulation for student nurses at a fraction of the cost that it does to kit out a suite of AI-driven dolls and things for millions of pounds. But when you ask for a few £1,000s for something with the arts, it's seen as extortionate and something you could do a poster for. And I think that's the hardest barrier that you and all the other creatives have got, is that people see it as something that's nice, that's fluffy, that you can do at the end of the day if we've got time, if we don't need to get off and do something more serious. There you go.
Yeah, thank you. I certainly echo that. Andy, have we got anything online to add to what's been said in the room, please?
The large number of comments were exactly what that gentleman just said in the room, about lack of confidence, the arts being fluffy, nice thing to have, lack of confidence that the research teams might not identify as being creative themselves as well. Also lack of experience and training in these methods, so maybe the lack of confidence comes as a result of that, so it can feel quite daunting to think creatively about how to use these methods.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Andy, for sharing that. So time has sort of caught up with us. There is going to be one more question, and we will pop it on Slido for you. So if you have got time, do fill it in if you haven't completely understand. And I guess this last one is kind of picking up what the gentleman in the back was saying about the lack of resources at the bid writing process to support PPIE. And we as an organisation, as a not-for-profit organisation, are trying to think how we can better support researchers at that time. Because that's something we do. We work with researchers putting bids in all the while now, and quite often, we're helping them think about how they write about the work, how we're writing parts of the bid in co-production with them. We're supporting many questions that come from the funders, and we're trying to work all the while to think about how we can support researchers in a better way to use these kinds of methods. Is that what can we offer researchers to support them better and to bring them in to kind of adopt these kind of methods. So this question's aimed at this, and these are new questions, so do try and fill that in if you can. There's some contact information there. I'm going to stick around for a little bit if you want to chat, but the time has come up. But if you've got any questions or you're interested in our work any further, please do get in touch. Thank you very much for having us.